Winnie Madikizela Mandela, born 26th of September in Bongweni in 1936. Her father, Columbus Madikizela, who was a minister in the local government, had the means to send Winnie to further her schooling in Johannesburg. She became South Africa's first black social worker at Chrizani Baragwanath Hospital in Soweto. A few months later, she would meet Nelson Mandela, and they were married a year later. As a result of his imprisonment for terrorist acts in 1964, Winnie raised their two daughters and became the voice of the liberation struggle.
We are here today to tell you that that day is not far when we shall lead you to freedom. Amandla!
Her historical influence will forever be ingrained. From her testimony in the TRC,
when things went horribly wrong and we were aware of the fact that there were factors that led to that. For that, I am deeply sorry.
to enduring government arrest as depicted in her memoir, 491 Days.
As I sat in that cell, if my own father or my brother walked in dangling a gun, and he was on the other side, and I had a gun too in my hand, in defense of the ideals for which I was being tortured, then I would fire.
Sitilala ngoxolo mama, activist, warrior, mother of the nation, Winnie Madikizela Mandela. We are, of course, still observing the 12 days of mourning for the mother of our nation, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, whose legacy we will forever cherish, and it is our responsibility to ensure that it lives on in our history books and beyond our generations. Throughout the week, we'll reflect on her life with various guests and tribute pieces to honor her legacy. You can send your condolences to the Mandela family by going to the Winnie Mandela Memorial website. We welcome you to Real Talk. We're live on SABC 3 where the stage is yours. On a freezing winter's night, a few hours before dawn on the 12th of May, 1969, security police stormed the Soweto home of Winnie Mandela, arresting her in the presence of her two young daughters. That would be the start of her longest and most torturous period of police detention, which lasted from the 12th of May 1969 to September 1970, exactly 491 days. All the details captured in Mama's prison journal, put together beautifully by her granddaughter Swati Dlamini and Sam Fenter from the Nelson Mandela Foundation. We welcome Sam onto the show right now. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Anele.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'm pretty sure this knocked you as hard as it's knocked, the rest of the nation.
Yeah.
But I mean, in times like this, like we were saying, it's best to do things that she would like this, right? The fact that we're out here celebrating her book.
Yes, when you invited me, I spoke to Swati and I said, what do you think? And she said she would love it. We've got to do this for her.
So how did this come to happen? So I understand it was a 2-year process.
Well, what happened was in June 2011, we were at the funeral service of Zolega's baby, Zenawe, who died when he was 2 days old. And she said that this lady had come to her in Parliament and given her this folder of papers. The lady was Greta Soggett, the widow of her Mama Winnie's lawyer, David Soggett. And it was a journal she had written in prison, and she said, I want this to be a book. And she said she wanted Swati and I to make it into a book. So it was quite a command, because you have to get it published also.
Yes.
So we started around mid-2011, and it was published in August 2013.
Yeah. Was it difficult okay, let me ask it like this. How much convincing did it take from you guys to get Mama to read her journals?
We didn't even ask her. She gave them to us and trusted that we would do something with them. We sat down and asked her some questions. She didn't. Well, one of the most difficult ones was we discovered in the journal a section called The Decision, that at one point she decided she was going to kill herself, and none of us knew about it. And we were quite nervous, and so we asked her, and she didn't even remember that that was in the journal.
Wow.
But it's explained in the book why she thought, because she couldn't handle it anymore, but she had planned to do it in such a way that it would not look like suicide.
Oh, because I mean, she was always in the eye of violence, so she wouldn't fight as hard and let one of the bullets that were always directed at her take her?
No, in prison she was going to not eat and basically fade away, so that, and she had a heart condition anyway. So she would do it not in a way to embarrass her husband and her daughters, but it didn't happen like that, thank goodness. So we just asked her questions about certain of the things that were in the book, like what is a pon? You know, like a sanitary pail that they had. What is a Dixie? Things like that, but I don't think that she read it again because it was too painful for her.
Did you ever ask her about the English? Because my word, the English in this book is high end. Every time I read it, I was like, you can say what you want to say about them. They were educated.
I'm telling you. Well, both her parents were teachers.
Yeah.
And, you know, she was very intelligent and very well educated and very classy. And she just happened to be in detention and have to write a journal.
So, I mean, when you hear the stories that you're speaking about, and we know for the fact that it was 491 days, you know, it can't be all dark. There were pockets of light somewhere. And was it easy for you to interrogate her and ask her that? You know, and be like, okay, I understand you're in prison and you are, you know, you're jailed, you're in detention, but what was the upside? Was there an upside?
We didn't ask her if there was an upside.
Yeah.
The journal reveals
The
certain of the upsides. Okay. We let the journal talk for itself because it was there in her own words. We didn't want to mess with that. We wanted to be exactly as it appeared in the journal, including with some of, you know, spelling mistakes or whatever. So it was authentic. And we interviewed her about some of the other information, you know, that's towards the end of the book and the beginning of the book.
Yeah. And for you, what's your, I don't want to say favorite part, but what's the most moving part for you? Which part, when you go through the book, always seems to hold on to you just a little bit longer?
I think that when, at the very end of the process, when we had finished interviewing her and we had written the epilogue in her words from exactly what she said, but it was crafted, that she said to me she thinks that this book is an apology to her children. I'm going to get emotional. But for the fact that that both the parents went off to save South Africa and they were left without parents.
Wow. Okay, and were you ever in the presence of her children with the apology?
No, but they've read it.
They read it.
Swati and I, of course, are very close, and I was with Swati, and you know, we've been interviewed together quite a lot, and it's very moving for both of us.
And talk to me about just being around her. You know, the entire week, last week after Mama passed away, everyone who came on here was always on about her aura, you know, her aura. You just feel that she's in a room. And I can never get tired of listening to people talk about being in her presence. So please, come at me with everything you have.
Well, she's firstly, when she enters a room, no matter what, she's had all kinds of surgeries to her back, her legs, whatever, she's regal, she's tall, she's proud, and she's dignified. And she follows her smile into the room. It's the first thing you notice is this beautiful smile, and then she hugs you, and then she kisses you a lot of times. And she did that with everybody. She just oozed warmth. And you sort of bask in that warmth. And she's just has a presence like almost no other except for maybe Madiba. You realize that you were in the presence of a great person. Definitely.
I hope someone quotes you, either at the memorial or at the funeral or even on her tombstone. She follows her smile into the room. Because that's the thing we don't ever speak about, because she was such a powerful, strong woman that she easily had the brightest smile.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right, so on the other side of the break, you and I are going to read our favorite excerpts from the book. I can see you've already marked yours. I want to find mine. Her resistance to harassment and championing of the anti-apartheid cause led to periods of imprisonment. From 1969, much of it spent in solitary confinement. Sam isn't going anywhere as we continue to reflect on the life of prisoner 132369.
When I was held in solitary confinement, I was held in the death cell in Pretoria. First thing you do when you get into the cell is to see with that at least you have a pin or something on you, so you can scratch the calendar on the wall. And that is how I kept sane, because you lose track of the time and date. It had 3 doors. You had your door, and then the grill door, and then the door. And the sound of those keys, you would hear the first door opening. The sound of the clinging of those keys, you know, was part of the torture system. And each time, when you have just come to prison, each time they did that, it opened the cell. It hit you right into your heart.
And welcome back. 491 Days is a collection of Mam Winnie's journal writings and also of letters between herself and Dr. Nelson Mandela when both were in prison simultaneously. A glimpse into the personality and history of a woman who inspires so many. I am in conversation with co-author of the book, 491 Days, prison number 132369, Sam Fainter. The title of the book, are we correct in assuming that Dr. Nelson Mandela had a say in it as to what it will be called?
Well, we found a letter that he wrote to her when she was released saying, more or less, well done for surviving 491 days. So then we started counting, because we wanted to be sure that it was 491 days, and it was.
And it
so
was.
We thought this is it.
So there wasn't another working title, perhaps, ever? This was
Well,
it?
the working title was The Saga. She called her journal The Saga because her lawyer called what she was in a saga. So that was initially the working title.
And what's the, because I see there's a lot of code when her and Nelson Mandela are writing to each other, right? If the government and the apartheid police and that regime was so, you know, hell-bent on making sure communication is as difficult as possible, how easy was it to sneak out these journals and these letters out of prison?
Well, she gave them to her lawyer.
Okay.
And she disguised it as when she was awaiting trial, she started writing from what had happened before, because she wasn't allowed pen and paper before, but she was allowed that for the trial. So it was ostensibly a communication with her lawyer about the trial, but she managed to sneak in a lot of journal as well.
All right, so earlier I'd said that I'm going to ask you to read, what is it? Is it your favorite part of the book? Is it the most moving part? Or is it the part that is going to leave us with the most from today?
Well, I'm not sure. It's a part of a letter.
Okay,
Yeah.
from her
From Madiba. This one is from Madiba to Mama Winnie on the 23rd of June, 1969.
This is when she went in.
We're about 6 weeks later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay. A new world will be won not by those who stand at a distance with their arms folded, but by those who are in the arena, whose garments are torn by storms and whose bodies are maimed in the course of contest. Honor belongs to those who never forsake the truth, even when things seem dark and grim, who try over and over again, who are never discouraged by insults, humiliation, and even defeat. Since the dawn of history, mankind has honored and respected brave and honest people, men and women like you, darling. An ordinary girl who hails from a country village, hardly shown in most maps, wife of a kraal, which is the humblest even by peasant standards. My sense of devotion to you precludes me from saying more in public than I have already done in this note, which must pass through many hands. One day we will have the privacy which will enable us to share the tender thoughts which we have kept buried in our hearts during the past 8 years.
Okay, I know why that speaks to me, but why did that speak to you so much?
Because he's encouraging her.
Yeah.
He's been in jail for a while, by that stage 7 years, and he's proud of her. And he's not panicking. He's saying, you can do this.
You've got this.
You can do it.
As you were reading that, and you know, the way he's describing Umamwini, the way that Nelson is speaking about her, to me, he fell short of saying, you are the greatest warrior alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that not what it's saying to you?
Yeah. I'm your #1 cheerleader, and we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be fine. Even when he thought she was gonna be convicted and sentenced to prison for a long time.
Yeah. Because he was like, I'm here for life as well, you know?
Yeah.
But we're still gonna get through it.
Yeah.
When you were speaking to her and you were writing this book with Swati, did she speak of a time where, you know, she thought it would never happen? And where, even if, I mean, because, you know, she also speaks of being suicidal and wanting to take her own life. You know, outside of that, she just thought, you know what? We're just never gonna be free.
No.
Ever.
And him. Remember, he said one day.
Yeah.
And she knew it was going to happen one day. She always knew.
So for me, this is, it's a letter from him. And it's to the daughters, Zenani and Zinzi Mandela. And I'm just going straight in the middle. He says, and this is after she's taken into prison and she's in detention, and he has to speak to his daughters to tell them what's happening. You know, they know, but they must hear it from their father. And he says, gone are the comfortable beds, the warm blankets and clean linen she used to provide. She will not be there to arrange for your friends to take you to bioscopes, concerts and plays, or to tell you nice stories in the evening, help you read difficult books, and to answer the many questions you would like to ask. She will be unable to give you the help and guidance you need to grow older and as new problems arises. Perhaps never again will mommy and daddy join you in house number 81115 in Orlando West. And it's such a hard letter to write to children, right? But at the same time, I find it to be very honest. Did you experience a brutal honesty when you sat with her when it was time to write this book? Sometimes honesty that would even shock you.
I think there was no reason to hide anything. There was this thing, it happened. It was harsh. You heard her speaking about how awful it was just hearing the sound of the key in the door, and still to this day, she was feeling it. But that to me speaks to her apology to her children, that they were left all alone. And she felt guilty about that for the rest of her life.
And he also says, Mommy comes from a rich and respected family. She's a qualified social worker. And at the time of our marriage in June 1958, she had a good, comfortable job at Baraganath Hospital. So also saying, you know, she could have chosen a better life. She could have chosen an easier life. And, you know, this is the life that she chose. Is that him in a way telling them as well that, you know, things are going to be tough, but we've chosen this, and so we stand by it?
And she's a great woman.
Yeah.
And we're preparing you for something. We don't know what, but...
All right. Do you have the letter from Winnie to Mandela?
I do.
Can we wrap it up with that one?
Okay. A little bit. This was written from Mama Winnie on the 2nd of July, 1970. So she's been in for more than a year.
Okay.
We were hardly a year together when history deprived me of you. I was forced to mature on my own. Your formidable shadow, which eclipsed me, left me naked and exposed to the bitter world of a young political widow. I knew this was a crown of thorns for me, but I also knew I said I do, for better or worse. In marrying you, I was marrying the struggle of my people. Yes, the thorns sometimes pricked so hard that the blood from the wounds covered up my eyes, and the excruciating pains blinded me for a while. Although I staggered across the path of freedom with pain, I staggered forward and never doubted my goal, even when the crown was nailed by my people at times. This was only history.
Did you not feel like you were eavesdropping on something you shouldn't be be privy to at times? Where you're like, woo, mom and dad are talking.
I think it was because she wanted this.
Yeah.
She wanted this to be a book. And she had faith that it would be, and that people would. She was so happy when it was published, and that people were going to read her own words, not doctored later after the fact, but as they were.
Sam, thank you so much for this. Please, when you see and when you speak to Swati, tell her we say thank you as well. I think this is something the entire nation should read. I told you, it's like eavesdropping on your parents, and you're almost like, no, I don't want to know what you guys are talking about. But here they are, words between Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela and Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Trust me, this is going to last centuries. Thank you so much to my guest, Sam Fenter, for helping us relive Mam Winnie Madikizela Mandela's journal. After the break, a topic you wanted more of, and we thought, hey, why not? Let's just bring it back. Let's talk about it. It's Property Stokvels Reloaded. And if you're not sure about group savings, if you're not sure if they're for you, you may want to stay tuned for this. Apparently, people are still confused about what a stokvel is all about. So we take all your comments and your questions after the break. Stay with us. So this evening we're continuing on a hot topic that we had just about a month ago, property stokvels. Many of you requested more information. How do they work? Can they be trusted? How do you make profit? And many more unanswered questions. So we had to bring back the experts. We had to bring back people who are smack bang in the middle of it as well. Drop us your tweets and your WhatsApp voice notes. We welcome back Mambusis Kejane, who has 25 years of experience of below the line marketing, a passion for stokvels, and is an expert on how they function. She also publishes an informative magazine, Stokvel Voice. We also have back on the show financial planner Gerald Mwandiambira. Thank you so much for your brains, guys. Do you know what? I'm going to hit straight and go to the tweets. The thousands of tweets that we have received since you guys left here. Wow. You're popular. I don't know if maybe people are asking for autographs at the shopping center, but and they're calling you by name. Sidane Gwili says, interesting discussion about property stokvels. I can safely say some of these property stokvels are pyramid schemes. How do we go about this? Mambusi, let me come to you for that one.
There are some stokvels that are like pyramid schemes.
Yeah.
But the stokvels that I believe in, the stokvel that involves neighbors, friends, people who know each other or one another, they are definitely not pyramid schemes. They are not a get-rich-quick schemes, the authentic stokvels that, you know, we work with.
Yeah. Is it important to know everyone in the stokvel?
It is important. I think the foundation of a stokvel, it's being friends, it's being neighbors, it's being colleagues. You know, of course they've moved now, they've evolved. You've got other stokvels that have got a wider community. Yeah. But the gist and the essence of a stokvel is knowing, each other as friends or family for that matter. They're a glue that bring people together, in a community.
Now, Gerald, what I love about your mind is the fact that you're a financial guy. You're all about the numbers, the bottom line. So what I find about stokvels, and a lot of the questions that are coming through, is that they work a lot on sentiment and feeling and trust and friendliness and family. When feelings meet with money, what are the flags that we should be watching out for?
I think when you have any situation where there's something which happens so quickly, gets rich, I think, just as a financial planner, I always say set a goal. So often if you have a stokvel of 15 helpers or domestic workers who are saving 400 Rand a month, that's 4,500 Rand a month, they will have a goal. Often they will say, I want to build a house home in Lesotho, Swaziland or Zimbabwe or whatever. That house will be worth about 30,000 Rand, which means that every 10 months, they can buy a house. And, that's how it works. Now, the problem we have is that many people don't have goals or have unrealistic goals. I have met another stokvel where they contribute 8,000 Rand a month, 15 women, 120,000 is banked every month.
Wow.
every 6 months they bank R1 million.
So every 6 months they can buy a townhouse.
Yes. So essentially what you need to realize is whatever you're contributing, you must work it out to a factor of 100. If you are contributing R1,000, expect 10,000 at best. Now you can't contribute R1,000 and say you want R1 million house. It doesn't work. It's going to take you 150 years to get to that target. So we need to set realistic goals. Here's the realistic goals. People who are in their first-time jobs, they want cars. The average price of a car right now probably is 200,000 for an entry-level hatchback. And you would set yourselves and say, okay, let's contribute R4,000, 15 of us, which means that you're saving 60,000 a month, which means potentially every 3-4 months, one of you is getting a car. In 2-3 years, everyone has gotten a car. Let's set realistic goals. And the problem with pyramid schemes, it's always unrealistic goals. It's things like you're going to be a millionaire in 2 months. It doesn't happen.
What?
By law, under the Banks Act, it says any return that is more than 27.5% per annum is deemed a multiplication scheme, which technically is a pyramid scheme.
All right. Mambusi, Kulekani Kanye says, if property stokvels worked, white folks would have started it a long time ago.
Actually, white folks are doing it already. They're just not calling it a stokvel. I mean, property development. You know, do you think there's only one John Smith out there who does this property development? All the complexes, they come together. You know, they call them syndicates, you know, holiday homes. They buy holiday homes. Timeshares, you know. So it is already happening in white community. On a smaller scale, I always call it the book club, you know. You know, white women will come together and share a book, you know. So it is definitely happening. But yes, it's just that with us, black people, we've always focused on burial, you know, masngcwabane and groceries and all that. I think the conversation now, it says, let's think big, you know. Of course, guarding against, you know, the get-rich-quick schemes, you know. Yeah.
I want you to, I'll come to you, Gerald. I want you to, because for somebody who's catching this for the first time, talk to us. You are in a property stokvel and you bought your property 10 years ago.
Yes, actually, when I was invited to join a stokvel, this stokvel, it's a person that I knew. She was already a friend of mine. We're in another, you know, basic stokvel, and she said, come, you know, there's a place in Hazy View. And at that point in time, actually, to be specific, it was in 1998. And I didn't know a thing about this thing called property investment because I've always had a perception that only super rich people can invest in property. And it turned out it's a simple mechanism that we are friends, we know each other. Here's a property, is going for X amount. We had to go through the entire process. Of course, we had to register our stokvel as a company because we didn't have enough money to purchase that particular property. So we went through all the legal processes. We got a loan. We service it. You know, it depends again where you buy. Not everyone can afford to go and buy a property in Kruger Park Lodge, Hazy View. You know, there's different ways you can do it. But you follow the same basic principles and the affordability. You know, I could not have just gone and joined that stokvel if I was not going to be able, one, to contribute towards my monthly contributions. You know, it doesn't matter how exciting or how interesting it could be. You have to still come back, like Gerald is saying. Look back, can I afford to contribute? Because remember, this is a property that I'm not staying in. I still have my house. I still have to meet my monthly bond commitments. I still have to pay school fees for my children. So it's quite broad. Let us not take it just at face value, that I'm just now going to go into property investment. You know, yeah, you might burn your fingers. So you need to be very careful how you approach it.
As you say, Anele, there's levels. So there's levels in stokvels. And the common goal or common association is the basis of a stokvel. You have similar likes, similar stage in life, etc. So therefore, you need to set goals, and you need to have it as a finite goal. Their goal was we're buying that property. The debt was finished being paid off. It became an income stream. And people who are saying, Abe Lungu, have to show us the way. Let's think back. There were these companies called mutual societies who demutualized in the early 90s. Old Mutual Assurance, still called a mutual. Sanlam was a mutual. Metropolitan was a mutual. That's a stokvel.
That's how they started.
There's no other way to call it. It's a stokvel. It's just called by another name. So let's start not looking at other people and saying they must show us how to do it. It's been done and it's been happening. What we need to do is just first have realistic goals, know the people you're dealing with. Because there's a lot of people who are tapping into this Stokvel movement. They're coming in and they've got schemes. They're trying to take your money. They want your money, Anele. They'll take it and they'll smile and they'll go to Zanzibar. So let's be in a situation where if you don't know the people, it's not a Stokvel. If you don't know the bank account and can't view the books, it is not a Stokvel. If it's on the internet sitting on a server in Russia,
it's not a Stokvel. Absolute transparency is what a Stokvel is. We'll say goodbye to Gerald for now. He's going to be back a little bit later in the show. After the break, is your Stokvel still stuck in the dark ages? Do you still focus only on burial and groceries? Do you still withdraw cash from the ATM? Meeting agendas are the same. You're writing in the same old-fashioned notebook. Some of you are sitting with the same chairpersons and secretaries that have been there for the past 20 years. If your Stokvel is one of these, Mambusi wrote an article. She's got a bone to pick with you. We'll continue this conversation after the break. So people use Stokvels to cater for many needs such as burials, funerals, groceries, short-term servings, rotational payments, and even short-term lending. But have Stokvels moved into the 21st century? For Mambusi, Stokvels need to evolve with the times and catch up with the developments. I'm now joined by Nico Sitole, who is the founder of the secretary of the Burial Society Revelation Helping Hands. So Nico, the day you decided to start this, what problem was there? Because here's the thing about entrepreneurs. You see a problem, and then you want to fix it. So obviously this is what you're doing. You fixed it. Yeah. What problem was arising?
Okay, when we started the society club, we were a choir, actually.
Okay.
We were singing. So as we grow, then we went separate ways. And then but mabati umama kabantu shonile. Then we come back. We just go to the funeral, we sing, we contribute 20 rand yamakhandlela. And then that was it. And then we decided guys, really, masipamuntu 20 rand. What is it?
What are you saying she must do with
at
it?
At a black funeral.
Yeah.
They need a cow. If see 15 and say keep it 20 rand, it's close to nothing. So we decided, okay, how about we open a savings account where we will just put money. If somebody available something, then we will be able to contribute imali ebonakalayo.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, then we joined in SASA, National Stokvel Association, where they started introducing us to different things besides focusing directly on burials. They say, okay, we can see we're getting because with a year passes
and no one's passed away.
No one's passed away. So it means we've made imalening. So we decided to go into investment with Alexander Forbes to say, okay, now I think Lemalile is enough manje for Tina with we can now start investing.
Oh, wow. You see, this is what you're talking about, that Stokvels...
Yeah, moving on.
That they must move on. Please, can you come in here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's quite interesting to hear. They had that, that wisdom,
foresight,
that foresight and that wisdom to say, look, we're not only living for death and thanks, and it's great that we're investing, but again, the message is you need to understand what you're investing in. And I'm glad that she's mentioned one of the reputable companies, And I think that's what I'm actually articulating in that article here. Let us not just be trapped in umasingwabane. And the worst thing that is actually happening, abanye, in this scenario, but, let us thank ourselves. Let's just throw a bash because no one has died. That's exactly what is happening. Instead of sitting down and say, oh, gee, we haven't had deaths this year, and then how can we actually invest this money so that 10 years down the line, and to me it's legacy, because the Stokvel, you have to actually build legacy, because you're not going to be here probably in the next 50 years, So like you mentioned earlier on, it's about your business, you're solving a problem, Yes, it started with so-and-so's mother passed away. We want this support system to grow beyond just a small group, but actually, cover the entire nation.
Is there a system in which people can loan money from you guys? Because I know that's happening a lot with Stokvels.
Usually, we know most MI Stokvels, they do that loan thing, but we decided not to do it.
Why not?
Because, usually umuntu uyezathi ubani bani athi ngizomcelela 1,000 rand.
Yeah.
And that person doesn't pay imember ye-stokvel. Then imember ye-stokvel is going to be in trouble because we need that money and the interest.
Therefore, it makes animosity amongst you guys
so then
now.
go on grudges and all those things. So we decided, no, what we're doing, we're saving money. We're saving money, and besides saving money, we do rotate visits where we have meetings and all that. And then we have, like that doesn't go into our club account. It just comes to the host. So like if you hosting the meeting,
everyone chips in.
Yeah, there's money that we give you. I can't mention them.
No, don't give us numbers.
We give you that money, and then we also pay for the food that you cook for us.
Yeah.
So that means it's also like we're boosting each other, because like you spend obviously to cook
and then
for
you
us.
get to see each other, because if you and I are in a financial agreement, I want to see you.
We see each other every month. And then like our club account, every time when there's any transaction, there's an SMS coming in. The treasurer gets the SMS, the secretary gets the SMS, and the chairperson gets the SMS. So when we have the meeting, we say, okay, guys, this month, this is what we have.
Yeah.
And then like maybe after 6 months, then we draw a bank statement so that everybody can see all the transactions that we had during the year. And then with, okay, if we decide to invest now, no, we have enough money to invest.
Now, what Mambusi was saying in this article that she wrote in her magazine is also that we stuck in the same notebook. Now, you must be loving her. There's transactions going through, SMSs are coming in, they're printing out their financial reports. This is what you want for Stokvels.
Definitely, that's what I mean about being progressive. I mean, we need to change, we need to move beyond.
grow.
You know, we need to grow and, I mean, and adapt to technology, no doubt about it. You know, actually, I'm looking forward to the day where you don't even print out the statement. You know, we should actually have electronic statements because it's much cheaper in any way,
So what's her blind spot? What are they not looking out for? What could go wrong?
You know what, she just mentioned 3 people get notifications. Say, supposing you are 10 in your Stokvel. Because we know for a fact, we've had a chair lady, a treasurer, and a secretary colluding, you know, the 3 of them. Yes, you might say it's transparency because 3 people. But according to me, we still need to do better, you know, making sure that each and every member knows whenever there is a transaction. And it's a question of progressing. And of course, it depends on the product that you are using. I know banks, generally speaking, they still confine this electronic facility to 3 people. But I would love to see a situation whereby at any given time, I should know how much is in our Stokvel account. I don't have to depend on these 3 people. And it's worse when the 3 officials or executive are family members. A lot of horrible things happen.
That's scary.
I know, right? So what must happen now? Because the banks don't give it just yet, or do you have to pay for it for more people to get SMSs?
Yes, some. I mean, it's different banks. I know there is a Bank X that actually says, if all of you, we can load you so that we can all get SMS notification. And what I've realized, again, Stokvel members in general are lazy. They'll say because she's a secretary, she's a chairperson and all that, go and find out about it, you know? Yes.
Yeah, that's happening.
Is your Stokvel, are they watching you now?
Yeah, they are.
Okay,
I know.
so you guys know what to do from moving forward from here.
Yes, we know.
All right, Nico, thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Thank you so much to Nico Sitole for allowing us into her private world of savings. Look, there was certainly a thing or two that even I learned. I'm like, hey, there we go. It's time we have a personal relationship with money. Are you part of a Stokvel and think it's being exploited? Or do you think that big sums of money are wasted in Stokvels? Join in the conversation. Send us your comments or your questions via WhatsApp or on Twitter, hashtagging Real Talk with Anele. We'll see you on the other side of the break. So are Stokvels a big scam? Can they be trusted? Are they a big challenge? Are Stokvels being exploited, perhaps even by the banks? Is it the right investment vehicle? Now, these are the questions that you have been sending us and asking us, and we're here to answer them. Did you know that 11.5 million people in South Africa participate in over 80,000 Stokvels, bringing in about 49 billion rands a year. Back with us again is financial planner Gerald Mwandiabira, and Mambusi is still here. First question, Mambusi, should all stokvels be registered with National Stokvels Association of South Africa?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Stokvels by nature are self-regulated.
Yes.
They've got their own document that they call a constitution.
Yeah.
So all what they need is just guidelines how to administer their stokvels in an efficient way, like moving away, for example, from the old-fashioned book. But in terms of being affiliated to an association, personally, at this point in time,
no need.
I don't see that. There's no need. There's no
need.
legal requirement that says we have to be affiliated to any association. But again, I don't want to be negative about an association per se. As we move forward, it's what value, is the association bringing in. I mean, it's pointless being affiliated to an association if there is no difference in our lives. We don't see any value. So at this point in time, I don't see a need, but as we move on, as the article says, we need to change with times.
Gerald, what's the banking? How is the banks, how is their approach changed and shifted towards stokvels? Because I see a lot, banks are coming in on it. There's travel agents who are coming in on it where they're doing stokvels for you to book your holidays. I mean, the tone has changed, and it is changing.
I think it's because they're chasing the big pie. You've got a good 50 billion rand circulating in stokvels. So these companies are seeing opportunity. Now, because they see this opportunity, you must look at these companies. The entire financial system is built on groups. A bank is a group of people. A unit trust is a group of people. So you must realize that the group has power. And why does the group have power? Because it teaches you the three things I always speak about: sacrifice, commitment, and discipline. Once the group has taught you how to do these things, you can do it on your own. So that's the main power of the stokvel. It will teach you and start appreciating that money set aside over time can accumulate and give you a lump sum. Also, the beauty of the stokvel movement is that there's a lot of cash involved. There's no point in taking a lump sum and just going to borrow. Normally you take that lump sum. Yes, you're liquid. Normally you take that lump sum and do something with it, which is the goal. So yes, although at times when you've got a situation where there's people who are working and they want to go into a bond, it can work. But there are challenges, because if one person loses their job, they're going to remember that they've been paying 8,000 rand for the last 3 years. And times are hard. How do they get their money back? That's where the constitution comes in. Normally you then have a clause in the constitution which says that, okay, if someone withdraws or needs a lump sum because they've withdrawn, future contributions pay you back, but you can't go and liquidate an asset which has been purchased in the past. So these are the tricks. But the most powerful thing about the stokvel is the fact that ushai tafla with cash. And that's what people want, cash. And the young people who are popping bottles, they should be the ones getting together and either starting a stokvel. And usually you start your stokvel on something you're passionate about. And I know the young people is going out. And for me, my first stokvel was a fuel stokvel. I had a car, but I had no petrol. So I used to gather 4 friends every weekend.
Stokvels, the petrol.
Started that.
We've got a WhatsApp voice note. Let's roll it, and Mambusi will answer it for us.
Hi, Anele and guests. Just had a question. Ukuthi abantu bazigangakanani ngama co-op banking, and is that a good route to go for stokvels to grow into becoming co-op banks?
Co-op, who wants it? We've got 1 minute left.
Okay, well, under the Banks Act, there's opportunities. You can set up village banks, community banks. The provisions are there. We're just not taking advantage. So
what's co-op? Sorry, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, co-op is another form of a company. I mean,
cooperative bank.
Cooperative banks. It is a legal entity. It's just that the structure is different from a PTY, for example. And we can be a community in a village. You all form a cooperative bank, but it needs commitment. That's the key thing. It's probably easier to set up a co-op, and it is a good thing to have a co-op, but it needs a commitment from each and every member of the co-op. Otherwise, the whole thing just collapses. It doesn't work.
VBS Mutual Bank recently went into curatorship, It's a mutual bank. It's actually owned by the members. Once you get the word mutual, members own it. So actually the bank should not have collapsed because all those members should have been putting their money in there, but they're banking elsewhere. So then obviously things fall apart. But under the provisions of the Banks Act, there's nothing to stop a village bank or a community bank being established by a group of people who bank with a larger bank. As your bank grows, you then can start looking at bigger things. The thing is about commitment, because we have a problem in that Anele is the boss and now she's bought a new car and I must look at her with a shady eye. We need to start trusting each other and believing each other. I was very disappointed with the earlier WhatsApp saying that Ave Lungu have not done it. They've been doing it for years.
Guys, every time they come around, I learn something. That's all we have time for this evening. Always wonderful when we're imparting and sharing knowledge about money. We have to have these tough discussions about money, guys. Otherwise, we will forever be scared of it. And if you're scared of something, it is not going to grow. Absolute pleasure to have Mambusi Skejana with us, Gerald Mwandiambira, as well as Nico Sitola. And thank you to our earlier guest who was here to honor Mam Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Sam Fenter. Be sure to tune in for more in our legacy series on her life throughout the rest of the week. Tomorrow, powerful woman Azanya Musaka is here with her business partners. They've got a beauty stock fail, huh? We're going to talk about that. From myself and the rest of the team, have yourself a lovely evening. Isidingo is up next.
That's cheeky.